All right, everybody. Thank you for coming for the last talk here at Better Room. Our last talk is going to be spreading the world of Plone in South Africa, and the talk is going to be by Alex Zeeman. Can we get applause for Alex? Take it away.
Okay, so hello, I'm Alex, and I'm going to be talking about spreading the word of Plone in South Africa. But before I get into the actual talk itself, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background about me. So, how's it? I'm from Cape Town, South Africa, and I initially studied languages and culture, focusing on general linguistics and applied English language studies at the University of Stellenbosch. And then I did my honors in general linguistics, majoring in psycholinguistics, which is basically how the brain influences language and vice versa, which is really cool. You should check it out. I then went over to South Korea for 2 years where I taught English and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So started doing some online courses in programming and coding and discovered two things about myself. I'm really stubborn and I like problem solving. And that led me to development. So I then came back to South Africa and I did a 1-year software engineering boot camp. And I went into facilitation where I taught our clients, employees, how to use SAP systems. And I'm currently pursuing an MPhil in IT at the University of Cape Town and working for Juicy. Woo! Yay! So background to this talk is I didn't know what Plone was at all. I had seen one post about Plone many years ago from my friend Talia. And I Googled Plone. I was like, it's a content management system. Cool. I Googled what that was because I didn't know what that was either. And then I never thought about it again. But now I work with Plone. And when I started using Plone, I really enjoyed it. I liked working with it. I liked the ease of use. It was something that I really loved. And because it's open source, which is one of my favorite pieces of software, because I like the fact that price is not a barrier, especially in a country like South Africa, where money and the cost of things can be a barrier. I really like that. And that made me curious about the adoption of Plone in South Africa, because if I didn't know about it, probably some other people didn't know about it. Or maybe I just wasn't in the right circles to know about it. So that made me think, let's take a survey and ask people, do you know what Plone is? Have you ever used it? And that brought us to the survey. So there were 3 main parts to the survey. The first section was getting background information. So who are the participants? What are their roles? What organizational institutions do they belong to? What is their awareness of Plone? The next part was adoption and barriers. So have they ever used Plone? What are barriers that are preventing them from using Plone? And the last section was on strategic engagement. How can we get more people to use Plone? So background information in terms of the role of the participants, everybody was a student. So they were technical students from the university. So they were from fields like computer science, IT, information systems, etc. They were located in the Free State, Gauteng, and then the Western Cape. I don't know why Western Cape came up 3 times. I'm not very familiar with Google Forms, but those 3 locations. And in terms of the institution, they were all from a university, specifically the University of Cape Town. And in terms of awareness of Plone, 88.9% of participants had never heard of Plone at all, and 11.1% of participants had heard of Plone. And in terms of familiarity, this was a scale of I know absolutely nothing to I'm an expert. Same demographics, 88.9%, not familiar at all, 11.1% were familiar. But then, in terms of awareness of Plone, 77.8% participants' organizations, so their university, where they work, that had never used Plone, but 22.2% of participants' organizations have used Plone. So that could have been a bit of a somebody clicked the wrong button sort of situation. Yeah. Now, in terms of adoption and barriers, the question that was asked was, what would encourage you or your organization to use Plone? So a big one was training and workshops. So having training and workshops available to students, to the public, so that they could come and they could learn. This is something that I myself would want to take part in because I prefer being in a classroom, having somebody instructing me rather than reading myself into documentation, because it can be quite overwhelming, especially with how much documentation is available on Plone. Next is documentation and learning resources, so having that available as well. I think another aspect to this could also be linguistic barriers. Like Carl mentioned, South Africa is a multilingual society. So we have 12 official languages, but in addition to that, we have many other languages that are spoken in South Africa as well. Local support and community was a lesser sort of encouragement, but that would be things like meetups, community events, etc. Having case studies and success stories. So I know on the Plone website, we do have use cases, but perhaps having that more amplified and shared more widely, because this will lead into another point in terms of talking about the viability of Plone and how trustworthy it can be. And then integration with existing systems. So seeing if Plone can be used with already available systems like learning management systems, etc. Now, these were the suggested barriers to the adoption of Plone in South Africa. First one was limited training availability. So people want training. A lack of awareness. So people didn't know what Plone was. So maybe, spreading out. I know the Plone community is active on a lot of different social media platforms, but perhaps spreading out even more, being more active on places like TikTok or what's the other one? Instagram. Consumer trust. So that was a big one. So people, for a lot of them, they didn't feel that yes, Plone is big and it's trusted in many countries, but because it's not as widely used in South Africa, it's an unknown. So having perhaps endorsements from institutions, from big brands, big partners, would give it a level of credibility that means that people would want to use it. And then skills availability, perhaps people not having the React skills or the Python skills to be able to necessarily develop with Plone. And then promotion of Plone in South Africa. So ways that we could perhaps promote Plone that were suggested were advertising in relevant university locations. So in the computer science building, on university platforms, through programs within companies and universities. So to my mind, this would be something like going to a university, having a training day, pairing up with societies where you could do talks and you could actually explain what Plone is, how can it benefit your environment. Through TikTok challenges, which I thought was really cool because I never thought about this one. So I love TikTok. It's one of my favorite things. And a lot of people my age love TikTok. It's where I learn a lot of things. And so having something like perhaps for the next Plone conference where you say, build us a conference site, here are the parameters, and then the winner gets featured and their development gets utilized. Might be a way of saying, cool. And then targeted advertising to most likely adopters. So figuring out who our avatar is, finding them, and then promoting to them. And then channels that are most effective for the engagement. University partnerships was a big one. Everyone said a university partnership. And I think this also adds legitimacy to Plone as well. Because I think the moment you say you're working with Stellenbosch University or you're working with University of Cape Town, it instills a level of trust into the organization. And then developer communities and meetups. So maybe like mini sprints or where you can have like a WhatsApp group that's specifically dedicated to South African developers, or a monthly meetup around coffee where you can get together and you can brainstorm ideas. Online webinars and tutorials. For example, at Juicy, what we do is we do Juicy Shorts, which is where we basically take a problem or an idea, we break it down, make it as simple as possible, and try to deliver it to the audience in under 10 minutes. So that is short and it's consumable, but it's also informative. Conferences and tech events. So not necessarily perhaps having a full conference, but perhaps working with tech events that are already happening in South Africa. For example, at the moment, I think next week or the week after, so a University of Cape Town is having an event called Break the Rules, which is where industry partners get together at UCT. They have an hour, they talk about their company, what they're about, they have internships, etc. It's a networking event. You get hundreds of students because there's free food. And then you're able to basically explain to people what's happening. So maybe something like that, smaller scale, but big impact. And then, of course, social media and newsletters. I know we're very active, but also maybe getting the community active as well. So I think it's great that we have a lot of posts, but getting community members to actively like, share, retweet those posts is very important because it feeds the algorithm and it feeds the network. So if we have hundreds of people here today, if everybody's posting and sharing it to their network shares it, and then you get a much bigger impact. And then limitations of the survey. So we had a whopping 9 people participate, which was fantastic. And then it was solely limited to the University of Cape Town. So going forward, what I would ideally like to do is expand the pool, so have more participants, expand it to more universities as well, and also expand it to outside South Africa, because I'd be really interested to see the adoption of Plone in Africa, the continent, as well. And questions. That's me. Yes. Johan Beers. Sorry. I just was bad.
So would it maybe make sense to connect the university students to Google Summer of Code and specifically the Plone applications for Google Summer of Code?
Yes, I think so. Because a lot of students in the groups that I'm in at the moment, a lot of them are looking for things that look good on their CV, mentorship opportunities and ways to differentiate themselves from other participants and other students. So I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, just a note on that. I think that makes sense, especially if there's some local support for getting up and running and getting started with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Also, there's my email. If you have any questions, you can email me.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I'll say goodbye already.
I had a question about the Instagram Reels. What kind of content have you made? You mentioned that you have under 10 minutes. You have the problems. So what kind of problems have you been solving with your customers? So
we use it on YouTube. We make short YouTube videos. So essentially, for example, our latest one was Carl made a block. So we basically explained what the block is, how you can use it, and how you can access it. And other things we do is things that we see our editors, mistakes that they commonly make or issues that they commonly have. Then we'll run through a quick troubleshoot, don't do this sort of situation. We try to keep it as short as possible, and we try to target one specific element. Yeah, that's it.
Not always very successfully.
We try, was the
point. Short videos, but when you're passionate about something.
Yes.
What was our first one? 12 minutes?
Yeah, 12 minutes. The aim is 3.
Yeah.
We don't often get there.
We've been also making Instagram posts for about we've been promoting Plone Conference as well, and it's really hard to try to squeeze the video into maybe under a minute or something, and it's honestly if it's too long, it's very hard to keep people's attention. So I really understand the challenge there. So yes,
the real skill is always shortening what you want to say, but still making it understandable and instructional. Yeah, I get you.
Anything else?
Cool. Cheerio.
What is the topic for our next Juicy Short?
They can't hear you. You need the mic.
What's the topic of our next juicy short, Alex?
Mega menus.
What's a mega menu?
You're so funny. Have a look at Volta Light Theme. Here we go.
Yes. Thank you. Any other?
Cool. Yay, I'm done.